talk about Rocket in the Sky and maybe not contrast it, but with Everybody Knows I'm High, because when I don't know what the intention of the song was, but to me, it really resonated as a metaphor for the stigma of mental illness. Like, whether it's high, anxious, depressed, there's that feeling that whatever we have, something from our history, it's like everybody knows. And that makes it like 10 times worse. And there's this kind of interesting contrast of when to be authentic, because Rock in the Sky is like, what you're talking about is like these beautiful feeling, you just put that out in the world, and then this thing of, but like, I don't want everyone to know I'm high. I don't know if that was the intention of the song. That was kind of how I took it. Maybe it was excited that everybody knows that you're high, but I took it as sort of like, oh God, everybody knows I'm high. And so It brings back that question. It's sort of like, when do you know when you want to share that authenticity and when you kind of hide it a little bit? In the music, it may be a personal level. It's kind of like, I want everyone to know how much I love my kid, but I don't want them to know I'm high. You know what I mean?
Just to go back, I think that's a really cool interpretation of the song, and I think that's definitely definitely valid. I think for us, it was more us trying to be authentic with our fans and saying that, like, and we were at the time, you'd been in LA for 2 months, you were writing songs, and it was a lot of fun, but we feel like our most authentic selves when we're back on the East Coast with our family, with our friends. And so that song was really just about, like, you feel anxious when you can feel really, like out of place when you're not with your family. And it's more like about the importance of like valuing that, like being able to be silly with your friends and how good that is for like your mental health. I think at the end of the day is what that song is kind of like at its core.
I just want to point out for a second that Spencer like just really, really so kindly told me that I completely misinterpreted the song, and I want to appreciate that because it's sort of that was such good parenting. No, but I just want you to know, because I actually feel like I said something close, but like I totally didn't. And so I've both been redirected, but like I left feeling
but
good.
You kind of did. You kind of did, honestly. It's more, it really, like, that song for me is about us being in LA and just feeling like we don't belong, and just it makes us really anxious. Like we love the East Coast. We always feel a bit we always feel like we're not cool enough or something for LA. Like we can't like fit into the scene. So I think that you're onto something there.
You had it. You said it wasn't like a joyous, like, everybody knows I'm high.
No, it definitely was like a paranoid.
The opposite, like feeling anxious about it. And it was funny because we actually like struggled a lot with like how it's a hard concept to the song's kind of hard to describe, because I mean, Chelsea's like smoked weed like twice in her life, and Spence and I did a little bit more, but it became a bit like, a bit of like a, like, how do we market this song? And we thought like, I don't know. Now I'm going down a rabbit hole.
But I will say this, going back to your question, I personally think it's very important for artists to be as vulnerable as they're comfortable with. And I'll just relate this to, me being a mom and going through, Spencer and I went through a lot of struggles to become parents the first time and the second time. And I feel like there was really no conversation about, infertility, miscarriage, secondary infertility. I feel like that conversation was so hard to find. And I feel like with mental health, obviously it's really, it's become, people are way more open now, but I love seeing artists being vulnerable, because then I can be like, oh, this is something that actually happens. I'm not alone in feeling this way. It gives a lot of resources. I like being able to see other people that are going through the same thing. So I would say, I really do believe that as comfortable as you are, sharing how you're feeling in your life, please do, because it really does help, other people that are going through a similar thing. It's not a scary thing anymore. It's not a, it's something that needs to be like hush hush. People are very understanding and supportive, and there's definitely a community that's ready with open arms. So that's what I would say.
Can we drill down a little bit? Anxiety, because anxiety manifests differently for different people. I'm just kind of curious for you guys, like how it comes across, like how it feels, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're doing, how you cope with it.
I can start, I guess. I feel like I'm the most anxious of it's true. I would say I maybe don't have the healthiest, response to anxiety. I feel like I'm a little bit more shut off, where these guys certainly like want to talk about it more. They're very much about, trying to get it out on the open and trying to fix things sooner rather than later. And I feel like I'm a little more closed off. I feel like I especially get anxious when I feel like I have no control over anything, when I feel like there's too many loose ends, so I feel like for me personally, kind of making lists is a big thing for me. And something that these guys help me with a lot is I'll make a list about things that I'm really concerned about or worried about, and we'll kind of go through each one. And I think having a conversation about, something that is really kind of occupying your mind in maybe a negative way is really helpful. I find that they talk me off the ledge a lot. They're really great at kind of being like, all right, well, this is what's happening, this is what you can control, and the rest is kind of history. And so I think that for me, it's really helpful. We're so different in that regard that it allows for a nice balance.